Joining me right now to talk more about it is former U.S. ambassador to China, former Commerce Secretary, former governor of Washington State, now senior advisor and consultant at Davis Wright Tremaine. Gary Locke is with us right now. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you, Maria.
What do you think this is about? How do you think the U.S. can make a dent in that $375 billion deficit with the Chinese? What would you like to see?
Well, we certainly have legitimate concerns about China's trade practices. China requires technology transfer. In many cases, so many parts of the Chinese economy are off limits to foreign and U.S. investment, whereas there are virtually no impediments to Chinese investment here in America. So that's an unlevel playing field. And when American companies do invest in China, oftentimes they have to have a local partner, which means transferring your knowledge, sharing your knowledge, your intellectual property, your trade secrets with those partners, which then ultimately over time will take it and run with it and hurt U.S. companies. So there's been for long an unlevel playing field against U.S. and foreign companies. That's what we need to target. I'm concerned that these tariffs, these surcharges on Chinese goods coming into the United States will not help us achieve that purpose of leveling the playing field. Instead, it's just going to raise the prices that American consumers pay, whether it's at Target, Macy's, Costco, Home Depot, you name it. And in many cases, many of these products that are coming from China, that's the only place where you can get them. I mean, no one in America makes microwave ovens anymore. They're all coming from China. Electronic goods, clothing, toys. So ultimately, it's just going to raise the price of that Americans face, which means less money in their pockets for buying a car, right, vacation, college tuition, or medical expenses.
I understand. So then what is the answer, Gary? I mean, you know, we know that China is trying to transfer technology from the United States to China, and they're doing it in the very industries that are supposed to be the industries of tomorrow, like robotics, like AI, biotech, all these very important leadership industries. So if it's not tariffs, what other restrictions should be in place against China? Because I know, like, if you're a Ford Motor, for example, and you want to sell in China to the 1.3 billion person population, the first thing you have to do, according to the Chinese government, is give them all your technology. You have to basically say, okay, here's how we do the cars, here's how we have inserted technology all over the cars, and then maybe you can get a foothold in China, but you certainly won't get more than 49% of any joint venture. Even then.
Well, that's why I think that the United States has to work with all of our allies around the world in the EU and elsewhere that have been subjected to these same unfair treatment and rules and regulations. And together, we impose basically the same restrictions on China. China very much wants to invest and buy companies and partner with U.S. companies and other foreign companies around the world. We need to put restrictions on their ability to invest and go abroad as well.
Yeah. How much of this is also about a national security concern, Gary? Because I think most people, and certainly businesses in the United States, big businesses who have tried to get a foothold in China, they understand this. They know that they haven't been given a fair shake. They will only be allowed to own 49% of a joint venture. They have to give up all their technology secrets. But in terms of national security, the chairman of the House Intel Committee, Devin Nunes, was with me yesterday, and he right now told me he's investigating Chinese practices over intellectual property theft, but he also says China's manipulation goes beyond that to military and infrastructure. Listen to this.
The Chinese just opened up a base, a military base in Djibouti. Djibouti's at the entrance to the Red Sea, in the heart of the Middle East, in the Indian Ocean, a long way away from China. We believe that they are looking at investing in ports and infrastructure around the globe, not just for military capabilities, but also to control those governments, to have the ability to lobby and manipulate governments.
That's a big deal, Ambassador.
It is, and that's why you've had so many members of the U.S. military saying that the State Department needs to invest more in terms of its soft power, its diplomatic outreach and programs all around the world so that we build up the brand of America, that we create allies and partners. I mean, China's really stepping into the vacuum created by the United States. I mean, long ago, we used to have programs to help people farm, to bring water, clean water in hospitals and build bridges and roads. We're not doing that anymore. Who is? China. And China is creating that favorable political, strategic climate all around the world to our detriment.
Yeah.
Getting back to the issue of intellectual property and technology, America really needs to put more money into supporting basic R&D and things like robotics and artificial intelligence. China is throwing billions of dollars at the world's premier, foremost scientists and researchers in this area, creating laboratories for them, paying for all their staff. They're enticing people from around the world to set up their laboratories in China. Where is America? That's how we need to really confront some of these technological challenges facing us.
Yeah, these are big issues. And by the way, the president yesterday said that he wants to cut the trade imbalance by $100 billion. You think he'll be able to do that? Get it down to 275 versus the current 375 billion?
I don't know if he will or not. I don't think that tariffs, surcharges, or taxes imposed on Chinese goods coming into the United States will do that, because so much of what we're facing is, as we said, an unlevel playing field for U.S. and foreign companies in China, where they're limited in what they can invest in, where they have to have a partner. Raising the prices of Chinese goods coming into the United States will slow down the Chinese economy to a bit, not much, because so much of what we buy is only made in China.
Exactly.
So Americans are going to continue buying things from China. They're just going to pay more, which means less money in their pockets for other things.
All right, so it sounds
we've
like
got to stop this trade war.
You want something done, but you don't think the current tariff story is the way to do it. Let me get your take on North Korea, because then there's that as well. The president made this surprise decision earlier this month to accept an invitation to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in May. Now, a new Fox News poll finds a majority of voters approve of that decision by a margin of 63 to 30%. What are your thoughts on this bilateral meeting, and will China be involved?
Well, I think it's always good that we have talks as opposed to confrontation and bluster. And so we need to lower the temperature and get the sides talking. And if the president's meeting with the North Korean leader can help set the stage, start that process, that's all well and good. But we need to be careful, and we need to make sure that China is involved, because ultimately North Korea will not give up their nuclear arsenal unless they have guarantees for their safety. North Korea is deathly afraid that the United States is somehow, and South Korea and Japan, will invade North Korea, topple the North Korean regime, which is why they have their nuclear arsenal. It's kind of their ace in the hole, make sure that nobody crosses that border. But if they do give up their nukes, they're going to want to make sure that they have guarantees for their security, that China and Russia will come to their rescue, will defend them, will protect them. That's why we need to be very, very careful in our diplomacy and all of our negotiations with China on so many other issues.
Yeah, so do you believe this is actually happening, though, that we are having these diplomatic talks? I mean, the markets are rallying today, Ambassador, on the idea that China and the U.S. have been in talks, and they're going to make a change in terms of trade and some of these issues. Are you buying it?
Well, I'm not privy to those discussions or to the intelligence. Let's just hope that the talks are for real, that we're starting, and we're serious about it, that both sides are serious.
We will leave it there. Ambassador Gary Locke, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon, sir.